So I'll be talking about dev tools, specifically the debugger. I just joined Firefox 6 weeks ago, which is great. I used to give this talk, and I didn't work for Firefox. And it was kind of awkward. I was like, yeah, I'll talk about this thing that I'm curious about. Now I can represent, but I only know this much, not like this much. And in addition to Firefox, I'm going to talk about Chrome because we like Chrome too, and this is open source, so why not, right? I can promote both. It's fine. I used to just talk about the code. I was like, here's the inspector, here's the debugger. It's so cool. And it is pretty cool. But after joining, I realized the project's pretty cool too. So I'm going to talk about how to get started, because all of you could work on dev tools, and why not, right? Like, raise your hand if you use dev tools, if you're a web developer. I love that. You're all my customer. Come, but use my product. You do. So I'm going to talk about how it works. Like, when you're in the inspector and the debugger, what's actually happening? I'm going to go into that. And this time, for the first time, I'm going to talk about the people, and maybe even some ideas about the future, because the people matter. When you want to work on a project, the people are the ones who are going to help you, not the code. And the future. I think we have this idea that DevTools was kind of built in the 90s and is just good. Like, it's fine. And it hasn't changed ever since. And that's kind of a fiction. I think DevTools ought to be much, much better. And that's happening. And it will happen faster if we have all of your ideas and all of your help. So let's look at the team. We're people. Firefox has about 20 to 30 people on DevTools. Chrome has about the same number. The big difference is that Chrome, they're in two different locations. They're in Mountain View, of course, and they're also in St. Petersburg. The vast majority of the team that works on Chrome DevTools is based out of St. Petersburg, Russia, which is fine. They're awesome guys, really, really good engineers. But if you're going to talk to them on the mailing list, expect them to be asleep and then get back to you in a little bit. The Firefox team is entirely distributed. I'm in New York. There are 2 people in Virginia, 1 in Pittsburgh. And then you have to go to like the West Coast to Mountain View, Portland, Vancouver, and then fly across the sea and go to like Berlin, France, London. You get the idea. Totally a distributed team, very much an open source oriented project. That's why we meet and have good food as often as we can. This is a small group of us in Vancouver. No, Portland. No? This was Toronto. The real team looks something like this. We're in IRC all the time. Any time zone you want, we're there talking about the project, other people coming in. This is in the Mozilla IRC server, and then hashtag DevTools, of course. Really open group of guys. You can ask any questions you want. Really supportive. One thing I love about Mozilla, and the reason I wanted to join, was that tickets are for the community in addition to your team. So if you're thinking about getting started, you can have your own feature, and that's great, or their own bug and fix that. Or if you just want to learn about the project, come, and we have tons of tickets flagged as good first bugs for the contributors. Last year, over 70 people contributed, and frankly, I think it should be much, much higher. But 70 people contributed, in part because we have good first bugs and mentored bugs, which is really, really important, as you know, for growing a community, to have people who really care about your success. And if you know nothing, that's great. We'll help you out. So there's that. There's Helen and Max. I'm so excited to give this slide. This is the best slide of the talk. You go back to early 2015, neither Chrome nor Firefox had a designer. It was like developer tools written by developers for developers. Designers, you're welcome a little bit, but get away. We have designers now. Helen's on Firefox, Max is on Chrome, and it's been profound. Paul Bacchus was giving a talk at Chrome Dev Summit in December, and he had this slide with just Max's face. I'm doing the same thing. And talked about how dev tools have become more and more complicated over time because more and more developers are just throwing stuff in. And then they got design, and things became simple again. Well, it's becoming more simple. They've done really good work in the past year. When I joined Firefox, we talked about how we were in the age of product. Like we're thinking about DevTools as a product for the community, and we're doing it right with a good UI, good UX, and every new feature is having that methodology, and we're taking stuff out and focus on the core use cases. So I think you can see DevTools changing a lot over the next year and forward because of these people, and because we're getting more community involvement. And if you're a designer out there or have good design ideas, come offer your help, because we've got like 2 designers for the entire web community. We need more of you. And I'm sure they'd want the help as well. So that's the team. What's the future like? Well, as I said before, I think the future's bright. But when I talk to people, they talk about it like this. I think that's a good lens for where DevTools is at. And so I try to describe this pictorially. We've got awesomeness on the y-axis, and apps have just been getting better, better, and better because they've been getting community involvement. And DevTools has been getting better, but just not at the same rate. And that's opened up a lot of opportunities for us. So here are some examples. I could talk about this for a long time, but I just want to pick some themes. Obviously, we've had community extensions, so you've got like tabs for React or Angular. I wrote one for Marionette. And these tabs are providing tons of insights into your framework. I'd argue that while this is nice to have like to-do item and all your components here, and then if you click on one to see the data, that should be your inspector. Like if you're using React, like why the markup view? This is a better view of that. As we go forward, DevTools is going to know which framework you're using, which libraries you're using, and just be better. We're not going to separate that out into a separate tab. We're going to pull it in. Hot reloading. How many people have used hot reloading in your apps? That's pretty good. Hot reloading is when you change something in your editor, like Atom or Vim or Emacs, and it immediately gets ingested into the page. So you see the effect. That's really cool. Going forward, we'll have hot reloading, I believe, inside of DevTools. So DevTools will be your primary editor. You'll make a change and see it in your app. It'll just be instantaneous. Trace debugging. Trace debugging is this really cool thing for trying to figure out where to start working on something. And imagine you're working on your to-do app. We're going to be talking about to-dos a lot today. Sorry. And you don't know what happens when you like click the text to like, open up that app. Where does that happen? Well, you turn on the tracer, and then you see which code is run. It just shows you like a real live feed of what code is being executed, and then you can trace your way to what's relevant. So if you think DevTools is static and doesn't need to change, it does need to change. Apps are getting much, much better, and DevTools can reflect that and keep us productive in this new and exciting world. At least, I think so. Let's get in the code. So this is the part of the slide, or the talk, where I just leave PowerPoint and I start live coding. And this is kind of stressful. And it's kind of meta. You'll see how it's meta. So if something like jives with you, if you like something, let me know. If something just goes like right over your head, let me know. It's going to be kind of fast. And if you have any questions, you can ask me afterwards. So we don't get like those awkward questions, but we get like relevant questions. I'm kidding. It could be anything. So I've got 3 demos. I've got Firefox, how to launch Firefox and work on Firefox. I have Chrome, how to work on Chrome. And then the 3rd demo, which I'm really excited about, is the new Firefox debugger that I'm working on, which is an entirely new thing, client-side thing, written in React, Node modules. You'll see. It's hot. All right, so let's go to Firefox. I've got this folder, Mozilla, with all my Mozilla code, and Gecko is the code name for Firefox. Everything in the Gecko directory is Firefox, and DevTools is part of Firefox, so we're good. I'm going to run this command mock run, which launches my own built version of Firefox. It looks pretty good. And I'm going to go to do MVC. So far, so good. Open up DevTools. So far, so good. And because this is a talk on the debugger, we're just going to debug Firefox, because that's how we do stuff here. Now, Firefox, of course, being like a really good tech product, has a debugger for itself. It's pretty meta. And we can use the inspector and just like mess around. On a tab, search bar. You see where I'm going with this? Let's have fun here. I'm just going to say display none. That looks pretty good. All right. And more destruction. I'm going to take this input element. Actually, I think this is the styling for all inputs everywhere. And we're going to make them lime green. In a minute. It's going to take a little second to come in. And while that's happening, we're going to go down here in DevTools. Right? You see where we're going with this. Nobody tells you this, but DevTools is one giant web app. It's written in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And you can have fun with it. So you can take this background and make it, what's a good color? Yeah. What? You like that? I like that too. Yeah. Next talk will be all Barney themed. And we can even like take these tabs. What's another like Barney color? Color yellow, maybe? I don't know. I don't have much time here. Yes, awesome. So if DevTools is one big web app, how does the debugger work? What happens like when you add a breakpoint, right? What's happening under the hood? Well, at one point in time, I didn't know. Now I kind of know, and I'll show you guys. And the way I found out was I searched the code base. Firefox has this function where you can search for all functions to find anywhere. It's kind of slow in Firefox because there's a lot of code. And it will tell you where functions to find, and you can jump to it. So what I'm doing now is I'm looking for a function that has the word add break. And yeah, OK. So I think you might see where I'm going with this. I've just put a breakpoint in the function responsible for adding breakpoints. And what's going to happen is I'm going to add a breakpoint. And when I do, the add breakpoint function is going to fire. And it's going to get to my breakpoint. And that's how we know that add breakpoints uses the add breakpoint function. Right? You asked for it. This is Inspector Inception. Is this meta? And here we are. All right. That's that demo. That's my favorite demo. And that's Firefox. Let's take a look at Chrome. So Chrome also has something like Gecko for all of Chrome. It's called Chromium. But we're going to skip that and just look at the front-end code. And what's amazing about how Chrome built their front-end for DevTools is it can just run on its own. So all I have to do is start a local server at 8001 and then launch Chrome programmatically with these flags to say, open, and I'll accept remote connections on a port. And once I do that, I can go back to do MVC, as you'd expect. And I can debug this tab in DevTools as a web app. Like, see, it's not like the DevTools that came with the browser. This is my own hosted version of DevTools. And I can prove it to you. Like, I mean, obviously, it just works, right? Like, I can use the inspector and whatever. But I can prove it to you even further. We can like, do fun things, because like, we're web developers. This does not ship with Chrome. Mind you, like, I added this because I wanted to at one point in time. I don't know why anymore. And we can debug that and see how that worked. Oh, yeah. You can open DevTools on itself here, too. And you could do this just in Chrome, too. So if you pop up Open DevTools, you can open DevTools. And you can open DevTools again and again. Don't do that in 99% of the cases. Oops, we just lost it. So I'll go to main.js, and we'll look at this function, should, no, lol, no, yeah, lol screens. Yeah, that's what I did. And when we lol, if you should lol, show the cat. If you shouldn't lol, you should hide the cat and show the panel. And if you should lol, you should show the cat and hide the panel. Anyways, it's bad code, but it works. So let's look at something slightly more interesting. Actually, it's not that much more interesting. What if we want this thing to spin? When you're like a web developer and you see that all of DevTools is a web app, your mind just spins. You're like, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. See how the debugger works, all that stuff. The way barrel roll is set up, turns out that the entire element tree is just like one JavaScript class, and it has a ton of functionality in here. So if I go to barrel roll again, you'll see that there's this node object, which is like the model for all of the element data. It has attributes. It has this agent which manages the connection. And the node model has a set attribute value function, which takes the style attribute and then some values. In our case, spins it. And we can do some fun things in here, like change the rotation. I don't know. It just works. Let's make it real fast. Yay. And that's Chrome. If you want to get involved, it's super easy to get involved. Just do what I did with getting the front-end code, running the local server, and you're literally one refresh away from seeing the changes. Really good stuff. OK, so now for the third demo that I'm really excited to share. This is, or has become kind of my baby over the past month. We're rebuilding, as I told you, we're rebuilding Firefox DevTools as a React-oriented application, and we're doing the debugger from scratch, which, if it sounds ambitious to you, it is. There's a lot of stuff in the debugger. We can have a conversation about it sometime. So I'm going to get started by doing npm start. Not a big surprise. We're using npm, we're using node modules. That's a really big deal. We're on GitHub as a separate project. I'll point you to that later. And we also need to have Firefox running, of course. So I'll do that, start Firefox. Basically, like the to-do MVC example is not just an example for the talk. I have to-do MVC open every single day now. It's a lot. Just turns out it's like a nice app to debug. Why not? So I've got that there. I'll open up Firefox as well. So Developer Edition. This is the landing page for the debugger now. It's kind of just a prototype, so it shows the tabs. If I select one of these, it will actually open the debugger for that tab. But before I do, I'll just drop one more thing in here, and that's Chrome. You see, the new Firefox debugger will debug Firefox and be inside Firefox. But it's also going to debug Chrome. And it's going to be a standalone application. And we're going to point it at Node, so you can debug Node. And we'll point it at any web view you care about for any mobile app. And you can debug that. And because it's in React, we're going to add tons of cool new UI and new features. It's going to be really, really fun. Coming soon, coming this summer. I don't know. You can see I get excited about this stuff. So we're now debugging Backbone. I can, of course, add a breakpoint. Sorry, I forgot if I'm debugging this one or this one. Let's say we're debugging this one. We'll know in a second. We are. Good. It's paused, because you see that green line. You can look at the call stack. If you think I'm too excited about an example of debugging Backbone, I am, but that's just because I'm surprised it works. We literally have this browser over here debugging this browser over there over a WebSocket. Why not, right? Like, that's a good idea. We can debug Chrome. Same thing, of course. Nothing too exciting there. Let me show you what the code looks like, just to give you an idea. So how many people like React? Let me know. All right, that's pretty good. So when you look at the debugger, imagine each component as a component in React. So we've got over here, we've got the sources tree component, we've got the editor component. If I pause again, I forgot which one I'm debugging. Shit. Oops. All right. Firefox, views, to-do view. Well, anyways, it's a prototype, right? So we got each of these components, and here's the code for just one component. And we could look at render frame, which shows the call stack. And if we wanted to, we can change anything in here. Actually, this is a bad example because you're not going to see the call stack, but we can look at the right sidebar and maybe change call stack to, what should we call it? Sorry, guys. Refresh. And now we have that atrocity. It all just works. So once we have the debugger running as a separate browser and the debuggy running in a separate browser, how do we test this thing? Well, we had to figure this out recently. And we started writing some integration tests I think is cool enough what I want to show you. And I'll try to like live narrate it to you just so you have an idea. The idea is that we can have the debugger over here, and it's going to run through a bunch of cases, and then open up to do MVC. I'm telling you, we're using a lot to do MVC, and drive it. And we can focus in on one of these tests that's running. And you'll see. Should I make this bigger? All right, we'll rerun it. All right, so in adding breakpoints in one source, it opens up the to-do view as a breakpoint, jumps between, we already moved on, to-do view and app view. You see the breakpoint's gone, now it's there, now it's gone, there it's there. In pausing while creating a to-do, you literally have to add a breakpoint, go over to the debuggy, do some stuff, it's paused. Selenium freaks out because its VM is paused. Handle that, and then check to see if there's a call stack. This is failing because it's trying to find the call stack, but it can't because it's call me maybe. That's the bug. So those are my 3 demos. What did you think? Weird? Pretty weird? And I'll just finish by being a little philosophical. So we're at a good point now. The debugger works, DevTools works, but it could be a lot better. Chrome had 10 contributors last year to DevTools. Firefox had 70, but we didn't have 1,000. React, Ember, other libraries get a lot more contributors and contributions because they're better at marketing and people just naturally gravitate to those projects, open source projects. But they don't realize or they don't contribute in the same way as they do to DevTools. And I want that to change. So I wrote a little email, partly because Chris told me not to write an email recruiting, but I decided I would try to recruit you all. And I'll just narrate it to you. Dear Joe, I've noticed that you're a web developer. The NSA tells me that despite having a higher than average IQ, you still refresh the same page way too often. Debugging applications in 2016 still sucks. Something like that. If this sounds appealing to you, both Chrome and Firefox are open source and would love your help. The current Firefox debugger team is 3 people. They need you. We want you. Thank you, guys.
Hi. So, my first reaction to a talk about debugging, I'm like, give me a break. Thanks. It's how do you get over sort of the hump between sort of debugging JavaScript, like the applications to like, it seems like debugging the debuggers, like it might be something that is harder to understand and wrap your head around. What is helpful, been helpful, because you've been building inspectors for like years. What's helpful for you in terms of tapping into that?
Time.
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 Do you pause time just like a debugger? And be like, I'm gonna just.
Have you seen the movie Inception?
Yes.
Yeah. You just think about that, you pause, and you're like, okay, it's okay.
I believe it's a documentary.
It is. It's a true story.
Ripped from the headlines.
I wish I had a better answer. There is just no answer. If you think it's weird and you get excited,
What got
this
you?
is so
What
cool.
sort of hooked you initially in terms of like you wrote like custom inspectors for Backbone and Ember and a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
What hooked you?
Have you heard of Recurse Center?
Oh, yeah.
After school? I spent 3 months working on these there, and it took some time to get comfortable. It took time. Yeah.
So,
But it was so cool.
really though, when push comes to shove, why is this better than Alert?
Have you had alert hell where you like hit alert and then it like opens up again?
Oh
and you
yeah,
hit it again?
that's the best. Or like, but then I'm just wistful for those days where you'd be like debugging IE, like old IE, and like you literally had nothing else but either Alert or Microsoft Visuals. There was like script editor.
There's
you could,
nothing
hook it
better
in.
than document.writeln, right?
Oh, yeah.
Write line, then you just write in there. Just put it
I've
right
recently sort of like tried to make it into a joke that like saying document.body.innerHTML equals empty string to someone is like shutting them down. But as you can see, there's not really a lot of fodder there. But it was really, really, really great to hear from you. It sounds like if you ever debug code, which I guess is everyone, you should probably check out the dev tools and make them better.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.